Hello everybody and welcome back in another video. In today's video I'm going to show you how to work with a provider in more details, and also I will talk about the provider not just in practical, not just how to apply provider, but also how to work with the provider, why we need to using provider, what's the provider. I saw a lot of videos just focus on how to apply provider in your application, and also most of programmers just want to apply provider in their application without care why we need to using a provider. But here the most important question is not how to implement or apply provider, but why we need to using provider and when we need to using provider in our application. So the crucial thing in a provider, not the implementation, but when we need to using a provider and also why we need to using a provider. So the first of all, provider is not a design pattern. This is very important note here. This is not a design pattern or architectural pattern like MVP or MVVP, MVVM, and so on. It is different here, even not like a block, because a block you can struct all application, organize all application in the block pattern. But here it is different here. Here it is just for manage your state, just state management, just like a pattern to manage your state, not to organize or struct all application, create a folder for model, create a folder for view, and so on. Provider not for that. Provider just to work, just to handle state problem. If you have a state in your application, of course you have a state and you need to change something depend on this state, so you prefer to using provider. Now here, why we need to using provider or for what using provider? It is just for state management. It is in general, but in more specific, we want to using provider for two reasons. The first one is rebuild just particular widget. You know, here if you can see, for example, here we just need to rebuild this widget like a counter. If you want, here we have a counter and we want to change the text, rebuild the text here widget. So we have a tree of widget. So if you want to change one widget in the tree, we need to using set state and using a stateful widget. You can't using set state in the stateless widget. You should using a stateful widget. In the stateful widget, if you just using set state for just one widget, set state will recall the build method. In the build method, you have all the widgets, right? So in the stateful widget, when we're using set state, we will rebuild all the widgets, all the tree of widget. We have, for example, scaffold. You have material app in the root, and then we have in the tree, and then you have scaffold. Inside scaffold, you have, for example, center widget. Inside center, we have container. Inside container, we have column. Inside column we have many widgets. So all those widgets, all this tree of widget will rebuild again. So it's something not effective. It's not a good way. So if we want to change just one widget, for example, you can just send it to another place in the stateless widget, for example, and also make this just a stateless widget. Now we don't need to change anything here. So this will be a stateless widget. And also here we have a stateless widget, right? Stateless widget just call the build method just once, just one time, just when the application launching, when start running. So here we have, you can using a provider and you can change the state, just this particular state here in this application, the stateless widget. You can change this, rebuild this, and also you can using this here, just the stateless widget, and you don't need to recall or rebuild all the tree of widget. This is the first reason to using provider. Another reason is to passing state down the widget tree. We have a tree of widget like this here, and we want to pass the state from widget to another, from this to this to this, for example. Without a provider or without a pattern here for state management, we can using just to pass it from widget to another, and also it is not an effective way here. Using a provider here in the root, and we can just store like a central storage of state. You can store all states in the provider, and when we need the state here, just from provider. When we need it here, just from provider. We don't need to pass from this to this to this. No, here just a central storage. Also, provider is not an architectural pattern. It is not an alternative for architectural pattern. You can using MVP, you can using MVVM or any other pattern, and just for state management you can using a provider. So it is important. Now I want to implement the first thing here. I want to implement rebuild just particular widget in this here. So now I just come to main function. Here if you want to make a stateful widget, just say here ftfl. So I just create stateful widget. I can name it, for example, counter. like this. Now I have a stateful widget. In the stateful widget, I can create like just center here, for example. Inside center, I have children. I have column, for example. You know, here inside children, I can just create text widget. You know, size box, just to add like a space in the height between each widget from high, because this is column, so vertically, not horizontally. Here, for example, I can add it just 5 or anything. Here the widget I can change just the style, add style. Now here just copy paste. So here test 1, test 2, test 3, maybe test 4 also. So now we have 4 widgets, right? Here, or not just 4, we have even the size box is widget. So we have more than, we have center. Inside build method, you can see we have center, we have column, we have text, size box, and so on, right? So here I want just to change 2, for example, here. So here I can add the function to just add the counter, I mean, integer c, for example, equals 0, start from 0, just make a counter. And here counter function, can add it just like this, raw function, and say c++, right? Here, just a function, a simple function like a counter to c. Sorry, here I want to add the scaffold, and just to add scaffold, sorry for that. Inside scaffold I have body, and inside body I will get my application here. So I complete that. Also I need so here I want just to make this function, and I want to add the button here, float button, float action button. So float here I need just to call the counter function, right? Just to make count. Now I have initial from 0, and then whenever I click this button will be 0 and 1, 2, 3, just increasing by 1. And then I want to add it here in the 2, for example. So just add it like this, $sign, and then here we have, or just C, right? So C here will be 1, 2, 3, 4, like just a counter, simple counter. So here I want just to rebuild this widget, this particular widget, right? All the widget here I don't need to rebuild this widget, but in the stateful widget I need to rebuild this widget. Sorry, here if you want to, I should ask set state. You cannot rebuild the widget without set state. So here C++ with the set state in the counter, and I'm just I call counter here C, and I call it here in the one or press. Here I just need the main function, of course, material app. Inside material app I have home. Inside home, of course, I have a counter, just like this. Now I complete that. I want just to test it, but also I want to add something here. You can just see here, just watching me. Here you have a build function, right? So I want just to see if the build recall again and again or not. So if you want just to test that, just add here, for example, n, just a counter, another counter, and just I want whenever I call the build 2 plus 1. So here just I can say print like this, and I can say n plus plus. That means whenever the application recall the build function again, if I recall the build function, that means I will rebuild all the widgets here, not just this particular widget, right? So I will check here how many times I will rebuild the or I will recall the build function just by in this way, this very simple way. Run the application. Here, sorry, we have this mistakes, and now you can see my application now, just like this. When I click this button, you can see it is 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? Just a simple application. But here I just want to rebuild this function, just it is rebuild, right? Just rebuild this widget, which is text widget, this, but this for this and every all widgets here, the tree of widget, scaffold and icon and float, I don't need to recall again. But in the stateful widget, it forced me to rebuild all the tree of widgets, because whenever I make set state, will recall the build function. Here I just set state, that means I will recall the build function. So everything inside build function will rebuild. If you want to check that, you can just see I just make a print here for n and say plus plus, and you can see when I click here it is 10. Here I can just say n equal to show n equal this. So now if I just make rebuild, and whenever I just click here, you can see n equal 12, 13, 14, 15, and so on, because each time I just click on this button, I recall the build method and everything inside build method. So it is something not effective way. This of course will affect the performance, of course will reduce the performance of our application. So here we need to using the recommended to using provider. So now if I want to change this to provider, how I can do that? So very easy and very simple. The first thing, I will change this to the stateless widget, not a stateful widget. I don't need stateful widget here, so I can just delete this just quickly. And here of course I will make it just a counter and with from stateful widget, stateless widget, sorry, stateless widget. And also I don't need anything here. I will delete everything. I will delete everything here. I don't need this. I will just say, for example, now just null, because I want to make a provider, and then come here, and also here to just text and nothing inside it. Now this application just a stateless widget, right? So now I want to create a provider here. Here I can say provider. I think, for example, counter provider, like this. So the provider, I create a counter provider. The first thing, you should go to the pubspec.yml and just add this package, just provider here. Just write provider and package get. After that, the first step here. After complete that, just go to the provider and create a provider. Counter, for example, provider. Here you can just say with change notifier. Change notifier, make this class, I have this class, if I make it just with change notifier, that means this class will be listenable. That means that I can add or I can attach widgets just to listen for this class. So anything change in this class will inform or send a notification to widgets that there's something changed and you need to, and this widget need to rebuild rebuild itself. So here just make change notifier for that. Now I need just I have just a counter, so just integer c, for example, I have, and I need to using function counter, just add the function here the same way, but here you don't need to set a state or anything. So here just very easy, just c plus plus like this. Just add another thing, notify listener. That means I want to notify anything, any widget listen to this class, because I will attach the widget to make many widgets to listen to this class. This class or the provider will be observable. That means just like a storage, and I can attach many widgets in this storage to listen to the storage. So anything change will be notify all listeners, all widgets that attach or that listen to this provider. So now here just C++, and just that is I complete now. I just add this and add the function here. Now here I want to, here you can see in this application I just want to change or just build this widget right here. So I can just cut it and add it in another class if you want. So card, for example, widget. This will be a stateless widget. So also stateless widget. So here I created this widget and I can just add it in the center. And as I have child and just paste this widget here. I don't need the size box or anything. So now this widget, I just need to rebuild this widget. Also in the stateless widget, not a stateful widget. Now I complete, right? The first step, I just go to the pubspec.yml and add a provider. And then I create a provider like this. just with change notifier to make it listenable, and just add whatever I need. The third step or the another step here is to attach the provider, or just add the provider in the root of my widget tree. So here the widget tree start from material app, right? Inside material app I have counter, inside counter I have scaffold, inside that scaffold I have column and everything right here. So here I will add another widget here, just to click and wrap with widget. So which is what? Change notifier provider to attach the provider here. So here you can see in change notifier provider I need something which is create method. So here I can add create method. Create, inside the create you can add here nothing, and here of course change notifier will be with my provider called counter provider, so will be type of provider here. Add it like this. Here just want to import it, put another file, I just import that, and then here I want to create what? Create this provider. So now as you see here, the provider widget, it's the root of my application. So wrap all my application here, all my widgets. So anything will attach now, all the widgets here will attach to the list, or to attach to the provider. So it is listening to the provider, anything change will notify it. So now here I complete that. I complete the step. Here I don't need anything, just here I have a counter widget, right? Count, or I can say count widget. Just I want to add it here because of course I want to add everything here. So I just add count widget. So now I add the count widget because I just need to change this. So add it in the another class, and now here whenever I need to change it, I just add this thing here. For example, count or anything equal provider dot of the provider, counter provider, my provider name, counter provider, context. I need context here. Just I will add a provider, import provider. Now import the provider. So now I can using a provider by this count. So here you can just add this $sign, and I can see count.c, right? C from where? From here, because I want to change the C. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. I can add it here 0 to initial it from by 0, and then just add it here. So now I just want to rebuild this method, just rebuild this widget, just this widget, nothing else. Even a center I can just remove it if I want. Just I have one widget and I want to change this particular widget here. So here now go here in the main. Also I need, when I click the button I want to change, right? So just from here add the widget. Same thing here, I need to using class and context. So now here I need what? Count.counter, right? Now whenever I click here, I want just this counter from provider. So now everything will be good. And also I need just to check if the widget rebuilt or not. You can just check it here, integer n equals 0, and I will check here print plus, and I will check that. So now I just want to run my application. So now here you can see, now same thing, if I just click here, this work, right? But also if we check here the n, whenever I click here, also I recall the build function. So here it is not what we need, right? So if you want just to avoid this here, when we just add our provider here with context, just we have something called listen. You want not to rebuild the function, just not recall the build function. Just make listen false, just easy way, false here. Let the provider just get count and just get the counter without rebuild the function or rebuild the widget or just recall the function. So now if I check it again, now you can see just 0 1, you can just call the build function. When I click here, you can see this change, but here I don't recall the build function again, not build anything here, just rebuild this function here, count widget, just call this function. If you want to make that, just very easy, just add listen false. But here you cannot do that. Here you can see if I make it false, sorry, listen false, if I make it like this and just rebuild and try again, so you can see I cannot build anything because not call a build method. Here I need to call the build method because I need to build this widget, right? So here should be true, or just by default, without anything, by default is true. So here now everything is work, and I just change particular, I just rebuild particular widget that I need. So I hope you understand that. It's very easy. I just the first thing, add the package and then just create a provider. It's very easy, just change notifier and add whatever you need. Here I just need the C, so I add C, and then just attach the provider in the root of your application. Just go to main and attach the change notifier with the provider name and just create your provider name here. This is the like a root or like a parent of material app, like a root of your application in the tree of widget. And then anytime you need to using anything inside count provider, just add this here, provider.of your provider name, and that is, and you can access anything here. And from here there's like just a storage, like just a central storage to using the state to store a state. Here I just store my state here and the function here, and notify listener to work like a set state here, notify or listener or widget and rebuild the widget. I hope this is useful, and thank you very much.